And in these cities, which has been done, many eminent views has come out. The ITSA has been launched by none other than the convener, Brigadier Dr. Vijay Sagar Dhiman. So here I take the opportunity to hand over the dice to Professor Dr. Vijay Sagar Dhiman. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Varun. Thanks a lot. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you, all dignitaries who come for the first time. I mean, I'm totally very buoyed at this time. In fact, I'm rushing from one of the newsroom channel studios back to my home to meet you all and seeing all the faces and the luminaries and the experienced people over here. I'm really very, very happy. And I send all my warm welcomes and regards to all of you, sir. Sir, today we are here to discuss a very, very important issue. As you all are aware that 5th of August 2019 was a historical day for Jammu and Kashmir. And on that particular day, we had something which happened which was not conceivable in any sane Indian's mind for a very, very long time. And people always believe that that probably is something which cannot happen. But finally, it happened with the efforts of the government of the day. And we had a different sort of a setup going on. And lots of things happened thereafter. But one of the things was that after Jammu and Kashmir becoming a union territory, there had to be delimitation for the assembly to be convened. So delimitation was some as a buzzword, and this is one of the requirements as well. And there has been a commission appointed by Justice Parekh, and that's how we're going about it. And then lots of meetings have taken place of late. Prime Minister has called an all-party meeting at his residence to brief the budding politicians of Jammu and Kashmir, and lots of reactions, positive, negative, everywhere. But this particular delimitation, what are the expectations now? What had happened in the future? What that we have discussed. And maybe we can probably find some way, or maybe we can sort of give us some kind of a viewpoint to the new commission, delimitation commission. Maybe we feel that there was a disparity in the balance of power between the regions, or the provisions of delimitation commission were not correctly or not rightfully sort of addressed to accommodate all the wishes of the people. And all this is because the very important thing that normally can occur over here in this process is that this process after it is given by the commission. There's no way it can be challenged in the court. So whatever commission says has to be the final word. And similar thing happened way back after 1947 when all the states, there were 15 states in India in 1947, all were asked to sort of go in for a constituent assembly and try to form a constitution of their own. But unfortunately, what happened was that barring J&K was the only state which said we'll go ahead with this. Rest of the states, after a bit of deliberation on the subject, they said that whatever constitution was being made at the center by the then government at the center, that will be acceptable to them. There were states, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and there was a proper procedure followed. But unfortunately, in J&K, they went ahead with the Constituent Assembly. Unfortunately, the power was with Sheikh Abdullah, courtesy Jawaharlal Nehru. Whatever his compulsions were to accommodate that gentleman, he did. And what Sheikh Abdullah did in J&K, he went in for a Constituent Assembly, elections were held, and 73 were unopposed because it disqualified the people from the other parties. And only National Conference got those seats. And the other two were also lightly contested, one by National Conference. It is something like today's China's Communist Party of India, Communist Party of China, that they have an entire seat with them only, barring a few. So in that particular thing, they went in for a delimitation, and they had the criteria sort of given to them, which are there as per the People's Representation Act of Jammu and Kashmir at that particular time. All those things happened, but ultimately, what they did was something which was heavily favored towards the valley and less towards Jammu. Like fine, and then on a couple of more occasions, the delimitations occurred. Justice Gupta was the last one, but still the final result was 37 seats for Jammu, 47 for Kashmir, and 4 for Ladakh. Now, when we say 37 for Jammu and 46 for Kashmir, now the various parameters, that is the number of voters, then the area involved, then the kind of communications in that area, accessibility, the roads, the compactness of that thing, all those are factors to be taken into account. And ultimately what happens at the moment is that we had census in 2011, and as per that, today the Jammu region has a constituency of 91,905 voters per constituency, and Kashmir has 78,225 only. And the area in Jammu region is 212 square kilometers, and Kashmir is 37 square kilometers. So this appears to be heavily concocted and in favor of Kashmir. And now that the delimitation is going to happen again, so there are lots of aspirations. People in Jammu have started speaking about it. People in Kashmir are also speaking. They gave the counters to people in Jammu. They have their own reasoning. But then these reasonings have to be based on certain parameters which have already been laid down in the Constitution, and not the gut feeling or your own interpretation. And as I said, this is not challengeable in a court at any one point of time. So whatever the commission leaves, whatever the Ranjan Desai commission leaves behind is going to be a gospel's truth. And the feeling in Jammu is, if this is the time, if they can correct it, there will be something possible. Otherwise, it is now and never. Another view which has been given is that in Kashmir, as per the 2010 census to 2011 census, there should have been migration out of Kashmir, out of valley. So their population level should go down. It is not only Pandits, it's even Muslims who migrated out of the valley during this region. And wherein in Jammu, we had a sizable number of, let's say about 33 lakh displaced people from Mirpur and present POJK. They are already living in Jammu, voting for Lok Sabha constituencies, but barred from having the voting rights towards the legislative council. So those people would come in. So with this, there should be an increase in population in Jammu and decrease in valley, whereas the figures show us the other way around. So that becomes a bit of a controversy, which has to be addressed. And then, if 2011 is the basis, that is what probably is not acceptable to most of the people who are talking on Jammu. They said we should have a fresh census of 2021, and then we go for delimitation, and then we go for a legislative census. So these are a few issues which I thought I would put in front of you, and maybe that would sort of generate some kind of a discussion. Now we have very eminent panelists who will be talking on the subject. First is Professor Suresh Chandra, who's been in Jammu and authority on the subject for a very, very long time. And he's very well known figure for the views that he sort of professes in front of others, and the right one, and quite convincing one. And then we also have Advocate Sumer Khajoria from Udhampur, who has done a lot of work on this, and his recent book on this is out in the stalls already. It's been published and it has already been released. So he also is almost an authority on the subject. And then finally we have our Mr. Jandyal, who's been a bureaucrat, who has a real pulse of the happening in J&K, who would be giving us his views. And all of the panelists, esteemed ones who are here, whom I welcome already, and I would request you all to kindly listen to the speakers, and we should be able to generate healthy debate. And all the panelists and the people who would be participating in the question answer sessions and the discussion, I'm telling you, sir, since ITSA is a platform wherein we promote views of everybody. Everybody means everybody, irrespective of color, creed, caste, region, religion. Nothing is important. We are here only for academic discussion. And for that purpose, I have a sizable number of young boys and girls, the youth of our Jammu region, some from Kashmir, and some people would be joining from POJK, and some in exile in UK, Canada, and US. They all are here. And thereafter, this particular issue is also on YouTube to be watched by the rest of the world. So I would request you to kindly go by the merits of the case and no emotions may please be displayed, no region-wise aspiration be displayed, no religious aspiration be displayed, but we should go by the concrete facts and things on ground. Right? If they're right, it should be pronounced right. If they're wrong, it should be pronounced wrong, along with the reasoning, of course, which should be very, very sort of prominent. So with that, I would request Professor Suresh Chandra, sir, to please take on the mantle and start the proceedings, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brigadier Dhiman, for inviting me. And my salutations to all the participants. Professor Dhiman gave me a very, a good introduction about me. Let me say that I am no authority on any subject. I just see here and there, and whatever views I can form, I do it. By training and my I'm an electrical engineer, headed the computer engineering departments, etc. And I'm no historian, but as all of you, I also read many things and then come to a conclusion. Let me start with a small anecdote because that will be relevant. A young colleague of mine in Iraq, in the computer department, asked me, sir, in those days, this Windows, etc. was not there. We had a disk operating system called DOS. And there was a DOS version 1, DOS version 2, DOS version 3. He asked me, sir, tell me one thing, that in our scriptures or in the religious history, the first came was the Old Testament. Then came the Bible. Then came the Quran. He said, why couldn't God create because the Muslims think God to be the the Quran to be the ultimate book. Why could God couldn't create the last book, that is the Quran, before experimenting with the other books? Then, because he understood computer, man, like this, it is like this. We had DOS version 1. Then changes were made, DOS version 2. And then came the DOS version 3. So he had a hearty laugh. What point I'm trying to make is, we think at a particular point of time, people should have acted in a manner which we think today they should have acted. That I think is grossly unfair. Whatever people did at the time, they did it according to their wisdom, without any ill intention. No, we are trying to find the motives in that. I think that's unfair because they are not there to defend themselves. And about Nehru, a lot of propaganda is being done, as if Nehru is the villain of the piece about the Kashmir. It's necessary when we go for delimitation, it's necessary that we have built up a background. One great thing did Nehru, people say that why did he go to the United Nations? He was a clever man. He went under chapter 6, not chapter 7. Chapter 7, any resolution of the Security Council is binding on the parties. Whereas if you go under chapter 6, it's not binding on you. And another thing which is very important to note, the world geopolitical situation in 1947 was not what is today. And there was every possibility that a plebiscite could have been done in Jammu and Kashmir. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, Admiral Nimitz or something like that, he was appointed as the administrator, plebiscite commissioner. And about saying the plebiscite thing, when Junagadh signed its willingness to join Pakistan, then Patel or the government of India held a plebiscite there. And 98% or 99% people favored Pakistan, India. So the government of India stand was, no, the matter rests. Because the problem there was the Nawab of Junagadh was a Muslim, and the population majority was a Hindu population, just the reversal of the Jammu and Kashmir. Therefore, Nehru could not have one standard for Junagadh, another standard for Jammu and Kashmir. And he knew it very well that if at any time the referendum is to be done, referendum cannot be what you call in favor of India without Sheikh's help. And in an article I have written that Nehru and Sheikh were no friends. They were using both each other because Sheikh did not want to go to Pakistan. And Nehru knew that Kashmir cannot be with India without Sheikh Abdullah. So he started cultivating his friendship since 1930s. That's besides the point. Of course, I cannot forget that the Nehru had a dislike for Maharaja Hari Singh. I do not know how many of you can remember. Many of you are young. At a public meeting in parade ground, in front of what is now the Women College, there was no government women college at that time at that place. It was a military barrack or something like that. Nehru at that time, Sheikh Abdullah and Nehru were the two principal speakers in that meeting. I was a young boy, maybe 10 years or 12 years. Nehru said that didn't Hari Singh know that he is going to, when you know that Nehru was stopped at Kohata or somewhere and was prevented to come to Jammu and Kashmir and was perhaps placed under house arrest or something like that. He said, didn't Maharaja know that he is arresting the future Prime Minister of India? So that was his, I think, too much on Nehru's part. And I remember, I was a small boy, there was a murmuring in the audience, especially from the Rajput community. But there were no protests about Nehru's lecture on that day. I still can visualize Nehru. He was smoking the cigarette also at that time. He was not wearing the traditional Gandhi cap while sitting on the chair. So things are not as simple as we see from the present time of view. So what I meant was that both needed each other. And I've written, I think somewhere in September or October, the article was published in Daily Excelsior, where I told historically that was the fact. And will you be surprised? Nehru sometime in 30s advised Kashmiri Pandits that if you want to survive in state, you must join national conference, otherwise you have no future in Kashmir. I do not know whether he had the foresight to look at what 1999 happened. He was very clear in his mind that, and he never considered Sheikh Abdullah to be a secular. In certain correspondence and certain private conversations, he said, yes, I know that Sheikh Abdullah is a commoner. So that's besides the point. Now coming to the delimitation, you see, it's a wonderful thing that because of delimitation, many stalwarts from Jammu have started speaking on this. As a matter of fact, it has become a, what you call a place, an opportunity to articulate the anger of Jammu. Anger of Jammu, I mean, because Jammu has been neglected, there is no doubt. It has been brought out in many commissions. But we should understand the limitations of the Delimitation Commission. Delimitation Commission is not a judge in the conventional sense. And they go by the terms of reference which have been given to them. If you ask to the Delimitation Commission that you should go by the 2021 census, which are still to be held, that's not their mandate. They can't do it. As a judge has to go by the book, he goes by the Criminal Procedure Act or whatever it is. You can't say, no, this act is not good. It is anti-people. No. As long as it is on the statute book, judge will have to go by the act or CRPC or whatever it is, I do not know the legal terminology, and the facts placed before him. Judge doesn't go and investigate. Just that's very important. Judge is not an investigating authority. So similarly, Delimitation Commission cannot be the place where we can go and tell that we have been wrong, injustice has been done. But nevertheless, it was a good exercise. At least people knew that Jammu is restive and certain corrective measures have to be taken. So in that context, I think it was a very positive move by the people who went to the Delimitation Commission and held demonstrations also, because you should have an occasion to voice your grievances, etc. So that is about as it is. And another thing which I must mention at this place, because there are so many people, that there has been a narrative built up by the National Conference, headed by Sheikh Abdullah about 1931, that the Dogra forces massacred Kashmiri Muslims. So this is a very, very, what you call, thing uncharitable in the sense that Dogra's suppression is a very, very mistaken belief which we take. If you go by the 1941 census, in the preface it says, during the Mughal, Pathan, Sikh periods, the lot of present peasant was very hard. In the Kashmir province, they possessed rather no property rights, no occupancy rights. All land was owned by the state. The cultivator was permitted to occupy the land only so long as he paid the rent when it became due. And it further says that they got only about 33% of their savings. Whereas in Jammu, people have the right to the land which they were tilling. So to say that the Dogras were responsible for the, the state of affairs in the Kashmir and their problems there, that's absolutely wrong. It was there already, whereas the Dogra rule, during Hari Singh, they got more privileges, and this fact has never been brought to light to my knowledge, that during Hari Singh's time, they got representation in Praja Sabha, etc., etc. Similarly, many authors in national media also say that Sheikh Abdullah did not get the job after he came from Aligarh Muslim University, after completing his MSc chemistry. He was appointed as a lecturer, and his first posting was at Ranveer Singhpura. The problem was that he was not found qualified to become a lecturer in the college. He wanted to become lecturer, perhaps his marks were less or whatever would be the reason. And with the hindsight, if he had become a lecturer in SP College or Amar Singh College or Prince of Wales College, Jammu, perhaps he would not have become a mass leader. It was his anger that why he has not become a lecturer. That's besides the point. So it's not that he was denied the job, he was given the job. So this is what I wanted to say. Another thing which you see, this when Brigadier Dhiman asked me to say anything, that then I thought that I must look at what is happening in our neighbor POK or the Azad Kashmir. Their assembly is a very, very interesting thing to study. The assembly of Azad Kashmir has 49 seats, sorry. Just a minute. 49 seats, and out of 49 seats, 41 are elected, 5 are for women, who they are what you call nominated. 1 is for the member from the ulema community, 1 is from the technocrats from Jammu and Kashmir, and 1 is for the persons who are residing outside Jammu and Kashmir in the foreign country, notably UK. So these 8 seats, they are nominated by the powers that be. But the most interesting part about 41 seats is that out of 41 seats, the 28 seats are distributed in 3 divisions. Now, Azad Kashmir has 3 divisions, Mirpur, Poonch, and Muzaffarabad. 29 seats are distributed there. And the most interesting fact which I came to know is that 12 seats are reserved, 6 seats are reserved for the people from Jammu region who migrated to Pakistan and living outside Azad Jammu Kashmir, or the POK. There are 6 seats reserved for them, scattered all over Pakistan, Karachi, Rawalpindi, Lahore, etc. Sialkot also. And 6 seats are reserved for the people from Valley who migrated to Pakistan. They are also like at Karachi, Lahore, and wherever they are. And that's why I'm mentioning this fact is, this is something akin to what Kashmiri Pandits are demanding. That since we are not living in the valley and are in no future perhaps we can go, therefore there should be a reservation for us. Or to some extent, POJK refugees are also, not refugees, sorry, that is not the terminology. Displaced persons are also asking. But our constitution doesn't allow this kind of reservation. And it's fine that people went to the Delimitation Commission asking reservation for Kashmiri Pandits, asking for Sikhs, asking for the POJK refugees or displaced persons, and all that. But our constitution is very clear. We can have only reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and for none. Even OBC are asking no, that seat should be reserved for them. So this reservation of seats is a very ticklish thing, and is not, in my opinion, in the interest of the country. As a matter of fact, all the reservations which are there should, over a period of time, should go away. But anyhow, this is not a proper forum to discuss, and perhaps not the proper time also. And I think Brigadier Demon said somewhere that about the voters. The voters from this West Pakistan who participate in the Lok Sabha elections is about 90,000. And I'm told that, I do not know, there's no verification, that the people from POJK who are here in Jammu and Kashmir state are about 7 to 8 lakhs, or maybe little more. But another thing which I wish to say, because there are many people on this maybe in the occasion, that do not have a history of Jammu as such. There are 2 history books, and it's a very laborious process. Muhammad Yusuf Saraf has written 2 volumes consisting of 769 pages and 679 pages about Jammu Kashmir. Of course, many facts which he has mentioned there. He was the Chief Justice of Azad Kashmir High Court. But he did take pains to find out many facts. Factually, it's not wrong, but his interpretation of the things, what happened in 47 and thereafter, is a different thing, questionable. But I wanted to say that history, you see, that it's a very laborious work, and the Azad Jammu Kashmir or POJK government established, as a matter of fact, a committee on his initiative, which had all the practically bureau, including the chief secretary of that portion, and various bureaucrats, etc., the history people and all that, to assist or make the history. So the people who are saying that the history should be written, it's a very noble thought. But for that, lot of work has to be done, and lot many people have to be involved who can do this work. Thank you, gentlemen, though I was supposed to do, on delimitation, because there is not much on delimitation we can really say, because the delimitation is commission is guided by the terms of reference. They can make a small tinkering here and there, not much. But one thing I will mention here, since the Delimitation Commission has appointed nodal officer in each district, people can approach those nodal officers and pursue them that the facts and figures are properly placed before the commission. As all of you will be knowing that the data is many times fudged. It depends upon how the data is presented. So it should be incumbent on the people who are fighting for it. They should have the liaison with the nodal officers so that the data is not, I will not say fight, it's not presented in a, you see, data can be presented in any form. I'm a student of the data analysis also. So it depends how data is presented to the person. So if the data is presented in the manner in which we think it should be presented, the person responsible for that will be the nodal officer. Now the Delimitation Commission is going to be acting on the data provided by the DMs through the nodal officers. So the nodal officers are going to play a very important role, because I don't think if they have all the final data, or even if they have the data, that still can be changed. And one thing which, of course, I should have mentioned earlier, that besides population, I wrote also that if we take both population and area as such cannot be considered by law, but because of various other factors, area does come into case. And I calculated by area and population and the voters list of 2014 Lok Sabha election, which were held in 2019. The seat share of Jammu comes to about 48, and the seat share of Kashmir comes to about 42. And if you want, I can give you the figures that which district is going to gain what. Just a minute. I will just take a second.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You really given us
for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. And you've been very benevolent to the authorities of that time, and you've been very generous and judicious to view their opinions and their actions. To some extent, I'm also with you. Yes, they had certain different circumstances, different compulsions, so they did what they did. And also, you are of the opinion that the present Delimitation Commission by Mr. Ranjan Desai, Justice Ranjan Desai, would not be able to do much because they have to work on the data presented to them. Sir, the very problem that I was confronting in Jammu from people, from various speakers, when I interacted with them, and that was the reason we went in for this particular webinar on this subject, was they always said the data was fudged. Well, you also used the word fudged, but then you retracted and said it's the presentation of data. Of course, I am aware the data mining techniques which are there in the modern day, and we present it in a particular manner. But then I am also privy to certain incidents which says that the census which has been presented is not the right kind of done with a good intention. So that is another major point. I'm sure our next speaker is going to address to that whatever census of 2011 has come, this has not got the right kind of thumbs up from the masters. Though it says very funny figures, a decrease in Jammu and increase in Kashmir, which is not possible by any stretch of imagination or even any logic.
Sir, I will
So that is the point which needs to be discussed, and I'm sure we'll be able to do it. And maybe at the end, if the requirement is there, I would give you these personal incidents which I've taken from primary sources and how they are presented, and even a bureaucrat's statement, which I'll be able to tell you later. It says if 2001 census what they did, on ground, but whatever's come out is what was decided in the Secretariat. Similarly, if you ask them to do 2021 census, that would also come out of the Secretariat and not on ground. So those are the, infringements, those are the dichotomies, those are the controversies which will remain. People will always be for it or against it. So I hope the next speaker will do it.
Before I will just have half a minute.
Yeah, before I go into that, I would request Professor Suresh to give his point.
Half a minute. About the census data, you see, I will not say it is fight. The census, how data is collected. They send the school teachers and others, and they just do it. But more authentic data is the election voter data, because the names are there. The census data is not known about the people as such. And the Jammu census data, the interesting part of 2011 is there are more Hindi-speaking people than Dogri people in Jammu, which to my mind is absurd. So you can say what kind of this data is. They found that people are speaking Hindi. I mean, they can be speaking other languages, but Hindi-speaking people to be more than the Dogri-speaking people in Jammu division, it doesn't click to my mind. So that is one thing that it is either fight. It's not fight. It's, I will say, the inefficiency.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. I'll give you an insight into this. Firstly, this data when I gave you, the 91,905 per constituency in Jammu and 78,225 in Srinagar. This is the election data.
No, that's correct. I'm no doubt.
That's right.
I don't.
Secondly, sir, one of the eyewitnesses, primary sources, is I think here, Sardar Joginder Singh, who's here. He told me that when the census guide comes, it is written in Urdu, sir. So he says when he said he came to my home, took a note of all the members. When it was coming to the ethnicity, he wrote hey, Urdu mein. So he told him, look, why are you writing hey? Either I am a Punjabi or Sardar or a Punjabi, so wo likh sakte ho. He said, sir, hey nahi, humne Hindi likha hai. So that is how it happened. Maybe I'll ask him to speak and give you the right thing. So that is about census. We'll talk about later. But now let's request Mr. Advocate Sumer Khajuria, who has done a lot of work on this, written a book. Sir, can you please change your name? Your son's name, Mahesh Khajuria, is coming, sir. And kindly change the name and all yours, sir. Mr. Sumer Khajuria, sir.
No, sir, I am very grateful to Brigadier Vijay Sagar Dhamniya ji, who has called me here to be part of this distinguished panel on the crucial issue of this delimitation of seats in Jammu and Kashmir. Before I come to the point of this delimitation, I want to refer some documents of 1949 belonging to the Indian Constituent Assembly. It was on 27th May 49. I am just quoting this document just to expose the intention of Pandit Nehru as well as Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah. What they were intending about Jammu people. They moved two amendments in the Constituent Assembly. One was for everybody knows, our state was established during the period of Gulab Singh in 1846. And its official name was kept as State of Jammu and Kashmir. Everybody knows. But unfortunately, that amendment, which got moved by Pandit Nehru through this Gopala Swami anger, what that amendment said, that this name of this title of the state should be changed as a State of Kashmir. And another amendment, it was relating to that. According to the rule of procedure of Indian Constituent Assembly, that assembly was to be represented by the people, by such persons only, by way of elections. In case a democratic forum is subsisting in the state, our state was holding the democratic system that was Praja Sabha, that was alive. Just to bypass that, this Praja Sabha, they sought amendment. These persons should be nominated on the recommendations of the Prime Minister and shall be sent by the Maharaja, being head of the state. What happened? Sir, on the issue of this, wiping out the name of Jammu and Kashmir, we must be thankful to the representatives from one from Bengal and another from Bihar. Their name was Lakshmikant Mehta. He was from Bengal. He fought for Jammu. He said, how you can omit the name of Jammu and Kashmir, Jammu's name from the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And because of their strongly protest in the Constituent Assembly, our name was saved. This was the first betrayal of the then Congress-led Jawaharlal Nehru government with the connivance of Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah. This was the first betrayal. And another was that in case the people who were required to represent in our Constituent Assembly, they should have gone in far back in Party A. But they waited. They were waiting for the reason. Because of the Maharaja was never allowing to recommend such person which was being recommended by the Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah. This was the main reason. They were just waiting for the majority of this Dr. Karan Singh. At the moment he attained the majority, he was got appointed a regent. And the names, 4 names were sent from Jammu and Kashmir. That was one was Mr. This Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah himself. Another was Beg. Third was this Masudi. And fourth was Motiram Begda from Udhampur. It is unfortunate that the Jammu and Kashmir got only one representative, and that too a puppet of Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah. Jammu people were totally ignored in the representation of the Constituent Assembly. The true representation had been there. We would have saved our right. Jammu people have stood for their nationality and patriotism. What happened? Everybody knows what happened in 53. Nehru was also forced to realize what mistakes he has committed. From the very authentic document of 3 his cabinet ministers. One was Gardala Dogra, another was Shamla Saraf, and third was Bakshi Ghulam Ahmad. They themselves have committed before the head of the state, Dr. Karan Singh, resolution you can find out from the Rajya Sabha, this Rai Bhavan, and another to the Prime Minister of India of that time, that he's a criminal person. He's going to be betray this India also. He's going to establish his own sheikhdom. He don't want to. He would not be living with India. That is why he was thrown out of the chair and was arrested as well. Sir, this was the one. This fact, and another. This I again come to the representation. What mockery these 4 people have done with the esteemed institution which was responsible for the our constitution making, that was holy book for us. Sir, all these 4 members who took oath before the Constituent Assembly, it is on record. I am saying by way of this referring to the record. Constituent Assembly itself says 4 members took oath on 16th June 1949. But it was unfortunate that Maharaja himself was never able to recommend those persons. These names were recommended from the regent of the state. It is again a fraud with this a betrayal with the Jammu and Kashmir state, that a regent, Dr. Karan Singh, as a Jubraj of the state, he was appointed only on 20th June 1949. A date is to be a very vital date. He himself got appointed as a regent of the state on 20th June, and he recommended those persons well before that date, and those persons are taking oath on 16th June before in the Constituent Assembly. And another fraud is that all the 4 persons who are figuring in a group photo of the Constituent Assembly taken on 4th April 1949, very relevant dates. This is the conduct of these persons, and would say that everything whatsoever was done, it was against the wishes of people. Whatsoever has, don't take me as any puppet of any political party, but I am saying whatsoever on the basis of regard as a scholar, it is my duty to bring all these facts on before the public. Sir, not only this, Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, Constituent Assembly of the state appointed, constituted from the regent of the state. Whether that state, the Constituent Assembly was permissible, it was being titled as a National Constituent Assembly. Sir, it is very, again, a betrayal with the government of India, our Union of India, that it was named as a National Assembly, which was competent to create a parallel government in our Jammu and Kashmir and deeming themselves to be superior to the Union of India. This is the another fact I am bringing on record, that these people delimited these constituent assemblies in 1951. On the basis of notification of a regent, though that on the face of this document, this constitution of this constituent assembly itself was against the spirits of the you go by the this instrument of taxation so executed by Maharaja Hari Singh. We had surrendered our sovereignty before the government of India. We were never sovereign in any manner. We had accepted our subordination with the government of India. How this National Assembly could come in? You go to by the debate of Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. They themselves treated themselves to be the sovereign people. They said that whatsoever we will do, everything would be acceptable by the government of India. This was again a betrayal with the Jammu and Kashmir people. Sir, so far the delimitation of 1951 is concerned, it was very specific in the proclamation of the region that each seat of the Jammu and Kashmir shall be divided on the basis of population, that is 40,000 for each seat in Jammu and Kashmir. Sir, as per the census figure of 1951, which was afterwards adopted by the Census Commission, the population of Jammu and Kashmir was taken as 14,58,000 souls of Jammu region. Because of the reason, the Jammu had become the hub of all migration from POJK and everything, and everybody was settled in Jammu. Whereas the Kashmir province, it had lost the area of Muzaffarabad, etc., and the population automatically was required to be decreased. They never decreased that. They treated themselves to be holding the position, this population of 70 lakh plus, and got allocated themselves as 43 seats. And whereas the Jammu people who were entitled for 37 seats, they were given only 30 seats. It was their conduct. And I am speaking on the basis of record, whichsoever I have brought on in my referred in my book, it is on there. So far as the election of 1951 is concerned, it was completely a betrayal and I can say strangulation of this democracy by way of rejection, outright rejection of the candidates of Jammu-based who had filed nomination. They were 59 and 41 outrightly they were rejected without assigning reason. only with the object that Sheikh Abdullah wanted to create his own sheikhdom, and he succeeded in getting the Constituent Assembly framed full of fully packed his own psycho friends. No other was allowed to enter that Constituent Assembly. Very specific, again, I want to refer a speech of Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah dated 15th March 1552, when he himself admitted, while nominating the members, 6 members of Lok Sabha to Lok Sabha from this Constituent Assembly, he said in his this speech that we cannot make any election directly from the people in case of Lok Sabha members, for the reason we have no infrastructure. We have no information about the voters, and it is if the voters and other things were not available in case of Lok Sabha, how this 51 election of a Constituent Assembly were held, it was clear fraud. Though it was pointed out Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, but I don't want to rely only on the Sheikh, Premnath Ogra. I rely on Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah himself, that he himself had considered that we have, whatsoever we have done by way of nomination, not by election, and the Constituent Assembly itself was this betrayal and this fraud with the democracy, whatsoever the Kashmiri leaders say, that the betrayal with the constitution and removal of the 370, whatsoever they have done, it was the third betrayal by these people in holding the elections of Constituent Assembly, as well as the nomination of Lok Sabha members, and that too not for one tenure. It is very, I will quote one thing more, that this practice went on till 1966. They never held this election. And fortunately, our member from Jammu, Major General Gansara Singh Ji, he himself said he was the first person who got elected through direct voting in 1966 from Udhampur constituency. I remember that election. He was the first person, and thereafter this direct election was allowed to continue. Otherwise, up to 66, everything was manipulated and everything. Sir, so far as the population of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, in 51, as I have said, 14,55,000 population was for Jammu, whereas as per census figures so adopted, 17,12,000 population was for Kashmir. We had only minor difference of 2.50 lakhs population between Jammu and Kashmir. And had we stood by that, they would have very fair and everything. They would have properly allocated the seats based on the 30,000 per the population per seat. Then we would have got 37 seats in this 51 against 30 seats allocated to us, and they got 43 line share. So out of this, another clinching point is that out of this 43 seats, whatsoever they got in Kashmir, at least they had indicated some sign of this secularism. 3 members for Kashmiri Pandits. 1 member was out of that, 6 from this Baramulla. And 4 members, non-Hindus, were also got nominated or elected. They got share something according to their population, according to Kashmiri scientific leaders. But what happened thereafter? They have completely wiped out these non-Muslims from the political arena of Kashmir. And finally, in 90, they have been shunted out from the Kashmir. Everybody knows what they have done. So far as the term of reference. I do agree with Professor Sharma Saab that Delimitation Commission has to go by the term of reference. And term of reference is they have to go by this population of 2011, 2011. Sir, so far as population जिसको हम 211 की population बोलते हैं, what has happened since 1981? These Kashmiri peoples have manipulated this census figure critically in a very calculated manner. From 4 lakh difference just in 81, they have reached to the difference of 15 lakh souls between Kashmir and Jammu. And very interestingly, if we vote by the registered votes, it is not my figure, it is figure of the Election Commission of India. The difference of vote between we people, Jammu people and the people of Kashmir is only 4 lakhs. How we can rely this census figure of 2011? And for that purpose, the term of reference is very clear. They have to go by the Delimitation Act of Indian Delimitation Act of 2002. And under that section, this delimitation has got the teeth to call this Census Commission and explain how this large difference has come out. How these people are protesting. If he's not satisfied, justice demand that other criteria have to do. Leave that this population. Why not on the voters, registered voters of the card of Election Commission? Why not on that? And on other things, 3 factors are there. I am very sorry to say, some days back, the Babu said that only the population is the criteria. Area cannot be considered. He's living in a fool's paradise. He has not, I say he doesn't know even ABC about the law. Sir, about Darabu, I want to play spell out one more fact. This Darabu had imposed taxation on the helicopter service on our pilgrimages. That was Vaishno Devi, Machel Mata, Shri Amarnath Yatra. Tax was there. For that, no authority was with the state government. Jammu people begged for him that don't create such this unreasonable, unhuman task, this behave with the Jammu people or the non-Muslim people. But he did not. Ultimately, I had to go in a high court, and the result was that government was forced to withdraw that arrest. And whatsoever the illegal amount they recovered, that was forced to refund those people also. That was the act of this. I don't believe the comments of these people. They have to say something whatsoever they would be that would be in their favor. So far as concerned is this Constituent Assembly's this delimitation is there. I further quote what they have done in 50 books. Sir, they carved out 4 constituencies. Those were Karna, number 1, just on 32,000 votes. Gurez, 17,000 votes. Nobla, only 13,000 votes. Janskar, only 21,000 votes. But what about the backward area of this border? The border and the afterwards, What about the Loi Mala? What about in Kathua, Udhampur district, this Panchayari, Landar and Bamag, etc.? What about Jammu province, Jammu this district also? This the Parmandal and this Mansar, Surunsar arranged, and Pargwal, etc. They have never considered. Their always mindset was Kunnal. And that is, I am not saying the own ministers, very ministers of Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah who have submitted their this resolution in the Rajya Sabha before the Karan Singh, and more particularly readily can be seen from the own this the autobiography of Dr. Karan Singh. That is re-quoted that they had said their acts were all never according to the national conference, whatsoever agenda was told to us. They were absolutely criminal. We cannot support them. We cannot accompany them. And finally, sir, secularism. So he has said this Sheikh Abdullah's speech of this. I have quoted what he has said on this date was in.
Sir, please conclude, sir.
The words were very specific. In 52, what he said while nominating the members of this Lok Sabha, what he said, for 4 seats of Council of States, called as the Rajya Sabha, the popular vote would have been got in the suitable way, and the members of the House of People, called as Lok Sabha, would be divided into the 6 constituencies for the purpose, and every constituency would be comprised 6 lakh or at least 7 lakh people, and every adult would be entitled to vote. Likewise, other states, the voting would have been taken in the beginning, 52. He is conceding that it should have been done in 52 also. And then successful candidates would have been sent to the House of People. The present condition of the state is that a considerable area of the section of the population is still under enemy occupation. What is fantastic, this reasoning? Many people still live as refugees and are scattered all over India and Pakistan. For these reasons, the delimitation controversy was a difficult problem. That is, I am referring. It is on the record of the State Constituent Assembly. Right from 52, we have been democracy has been strangulated. They had strangulated the jurisdiction of the constituent units like this Election Commission of India, Supreme Court of India. At that time, we had no remedy at all. We could not go in the Supreme Court. And all whatsoever they have done, and finally, after the poster of this Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, I quote a statement of Budh Singh also. Budh Singh was their Rajya Sabha member in this parliament. After his poster, he said he was being told, Chacha, Sant Chacha, Budh Singh. He said, कि मुझे संत चाचा तो बोलते थे, मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि इतना बेईमान. And for Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, I will again quote the words of Mirza Afzal Beg. उसको देखने के लिए जब लास्ट मोमेंट पे गया, शेख मोहम्मद अब्दुल्ला तो हाँ आपने पहचाना, हाँ पहचाना पर देर से, मुझे नहीं पता था इतना बेईमान.
May we come in, Brigadier Dhiman?
Sir,
I with these words, I silence my voice. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sumer Khajuria. Thank you so much. You have had a very fiery and emotional speech, and you gave out the facts and certain anomalies that were done in that period. You pointed them out rightly. I think Lieutenant General P.S. Mehta wants to speak to you. Incidentally, sir, he's also from Udhampur, so probably he wants to say, sir, 30 seconds, please. General Mehta, sir.
But more than right. Thank you very much. What I want to say is, starting from Maharaja Hari Singh, who failed miserably in the political future of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu has also miserably failed till right now. Kashmiris are creating history from 1931 onwards. And Jammu only repeats history. We read history. We've read, everybody is historian here. We know what history is all about. Today, I think we're talking about delimitation. Before I give out my 3-4 points, I just want to quickly read out 2 points. Act of redrawing the limits or boundaries of territorial constituencies for assembly and Lok Sabha seats in the provinces having a legislative body as per the Election Commission is delimitation. In order to have equal representation to equal segments of all population, to ensure a fair division of geographical areas, not only population, so that all political parties and candidates contesting elections have a level playing field in terms of number of voters. Delimitation is a continuous process because the population keeps increasing. There are migrations taking place within Jammu and Kashmir. Chuadi, Bhatindi, then you name it, have migrated from Kashmir and created colonies over here. Now my points are 4 points. What will the people of Jammu do as far as this delimitation is concerned? To my mind, you can do nothing. It's a fact on ground which is being checked out data-wise, and the statement will be put up to the government in Delhi. This seats coming here, that going there. Whatever number of seats come here, even if Jammu gets 4 to 5 seats extra, you think you can form a political party and have a chief minister of your own? The weakness is Jammu has no major political party, right from 1947. The major political parties are NC, PDP, People's Conference, and so on and so forth in Kashmir division. Which party is there in Jammu division? Whatever it was, 2-3 names we can count, have all failed. They do not have power. They do not have political wisdom. They do not have political strength. People of Jammu are not united. Let me be very straight and cut. There is disunity in Jammu and Kashmir. Sikh, Dogra, Christian, Falana, Dhimka. And now you have, the Sidra, Chuadi, Bhatindi, and what have you, pockets created here by local migration or selective migration. It should have been the other way around. Pandits have gone. They will vote by remote. Sikhs in Kashmir, 32 to 38,000, whatever are remaining over there, they are minuscule minorities distributed in pockets all over the valley. Do they have a say? Okay, my next point is Gupkar Alliance. Why has this been formed? This idea struck me today when I was doing a homework on delimitation. Gupkar Alliance, Kashmiri Muslim mind is very guile, sharp and futuristic with a lot of foresight. They have made one alliance of all political parties in the Kashmir Valley, and we don't know the inner secrets. Who is their nominated chief minister candidate? Who will be so and so and so forth? They will definitely win these elections. Next election will be won by Jammu and Kashmir division, and they will still form the party. And I am quite sure, with the kind of wisdom we have, we will even lose the seat of Deputy Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir or JKUT now. So you have to think, what shall the Jammu region do? To my mind, Jammu region should unite as one party. Bring up a leader. Are there any major leaders available in Jammu division? Bring up 4 or 5 names and support them hell-bent to the hilt. And if Jammu does not do that, you will lose this delimitation exercise miserably. My next point, should you have an election? Where is the hurry? Were we not happy that 370 has been broken and the state has been sorted out into 2 union territories? Why are we harping on having Dobara J&K state bana do, Dobara Jammu ko alag union territory bana do, without thinking? No political wisdom, I repeat. Why are you asking for a separate UT for Jammu Kashmir? You will get money and you will get development. You will be infighting in Jammu province. I know that. You all know that. There is no leadership. So Jammu should get together, include all displaced Kashmiri Pandits in Jammu division, because they can't go to Kashmir. Give them a place in Jammu. They have 2-3 places in Nagrota. Get all the Kashmiri Pandits back to Jammu division. Use them for their loads during delimitation. Take their seats and then fight. and nominate 3 to 4 people. We have very senior lot sitting here in this webinar. General Jamal is sitting right there. He's a very experienced old man of Jammu division. Why can't he be propped up? Just outward, there may be 5, 7 more, 10 more. Please prop up your leaders, support them, and make sure the entire Jammu population gives vote only to them. The population of Sikhs in Kashmir and Pandits in exile, or whatever you call them, should also vote for Jammu parties. If you don't do that, you will lose. Combine all minority votes in the valley of Pandits and Christians and Sikhs, and make them into one constitution. The constituency. This should be a recommendation. All minorities of J&K, especially in the Kashmir division, should be treated as one constituency, and there should be votes for them, 2 to 3 seats for them, and that is how you'll get something in your favor. Pandits have been talking of going back to Kashmir, which is not possible practically. They are scared to do that. They are only making noise because of various reasons. Jammu should invite them. Throw away the Rohingyas and put the Pandits there. Put them in Nagrota and use their strength, a political strength. So as far as delimitation is concerned, please give your recommendations to all the district commissioners and the deputy CM, erstwhile, whoever is representing Jammu, and make sure that it goes right to Delhi and not to the delimitation commission when he comes. Rather than talking history and rather than blaming Sheikh Abdullah and Farooq Abdullah. Sheikh, Farooq and Umar, Mehbooba Mufti and a father, were very intelligent people. And there's a number of intelligent breed coming up who will never allow Jammu to come up unless you unite. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir. You very rightly pointed out, and in a very military manner, you conveyed point in a very brief time that we are not united in Jammu. We do not sit together. We do not speak. We do not write. We do not project ourselves as a unified body. And that is why we are suffering. On the other hand, Kashmiri people, well, they are very united politically, socially, religiously, otherwise. They know what exactly they want, and they are doing things very well. So with that, now I would request Mr. Jandyal to please come in and comment on all that, whatever has happened so far, and give us the insight into his almost 50 years of hands-on experience in the bureaucracy of Jammu and Kashmir, and whatever he's seen through with his own eyes as a primary source. Mr. Jandyal, sir, please, the stage is yours, sir.
Thank you, Dhiman. At last, I'm asked to speak. But I don't think I speak as a panelist now. I speak on the comments already made. I'm wondering whether I should speak on delimitation.
The choice is yours,
on Sheikh Abdullah. On Pandit Nehru, on POK, on different elections, electorates. I think everything has been talked about. I don't wish to contradict anybody, though I don't wish to concur Professor Suresh Sharma's views on Pandit Nehru and the doing and undoing of Sheikh Abdullah. Because this is the unending debate. If you will start on 47, this is an unending debate. And I don't think if 10 minutes is enough to talk about that. But I want to correct Advocate Khajuria Samir. He talked about the nomenclature of the state. He said there was a motion to amend the name of the Jammu and Kashmir. No, it wasn't. The second part of your speech was correct. It was a amendment in the rules to allow Jammu Kashmir to get 4 members nominated by the Maharaja or by the regent on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. And at that point of time, the Constituent Assembly member from Bihar, he got up and said, in this amendment, you have mentioned Kashmir, whereas it is a state of Jammu and Kashmir. To him, the reply was, Saryangar was said, I understand It was traditionally named as a Jammu and Kashmir. But unfortunately, in the entire draft constitution, we have already mentioned Kashmir as a state. So we'll have to amend everything. So ultimately, a consensus was arrived that you write Kashmir, but in right bracket means arrest while Jammu and Kashmir. So having said that, now I come to the delimitation. Much has been said, I don't think much is left for me to say, but I will take up a few points which are not said. First of all, this is not a political forum. And General Saab just said they can make a recommendation to the government of India. No, they are not subordinate to the government of India. Their job mandated by the Act and the Act of the Delimitation Act 2002 and a notification issued by the MHA, they have to complete the process, delimit 7 seats, new seats, redraw the boundaries of 83 seats, and then make notify the preliminary report, seek objections, and after objection, they consider the objections and decide, and finally a notification is issued, and the entire record of the Delimitation Commission is sent to the Election Commission of India. The government doesn't figure anywhere. So this is one part. But I come to the different demand raised before it. I have written an article, and on that, Mr. Drabu became very angry. He got into my past and called me so many things. So I repaid him in my own way. Area, population, all factors are there. Compactness, it is written not on the terms of reference. It is mentioned in the Section 9 of the Delimitation Act of 2002 and Section 4 of our State Jammu and Kashmir Representation, People's Representation Act 1957. Actually, while there is a necessity, and this is very important also, the task before the delimitation is huge. The last delimitation was undertaken in 1995. And it was, the notification of that was issued initially in 1981. From 81 to 95, though there was a commission appointed, but they did not come up with any report. So the previous 83 seats or 87 seats are based on data of 1981 census. It means 40 years back. The data is of 40 years back. So they had to be updated. Secondly, in 2006, the administrative units of Jammu and Kashmir were changed from 12 districts to 20 and from 54 tahsils to 270. Friends, all these segments, assembly segment has to fall within the limits of the administrative units. They have to fall in one particular district, one particular tahsil. So they have to redraw all these constituencies. They have to carve out constituencies for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. And the act of our Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of 2019, they clearly says that this have to be proportionate to the population of these communities. So seats have to be demarcated as per the population, and seats have to be reserved where there is a larger population of this community. Earlier, we had scheduled caste, 6 seats of scheduled caste, but we didn't have the scheduled tribe. So now, because the extension of the Act of Constitution of India, and we have to carve out constituencies for scheduled tribes. Now, I come back to the 3 points, major points. One is that a BJP has come up before the delimitation commission demand to unfreeze the 24 seats earmarked for the people living in the POK, and they had to not to be reckoned with the actual strength, effective strength of the assembly. Now they have come up with that 1/3 of these seats should be and given it to.
Please don't disturb and mute yourself, please. Don't disturb the speaker.
And give it to the POJK DPs who are living in Jammu and Kashmir, in Jammu region. These displaced persons have also submitted a representation to the delimitation commission. My only observation is that they were dialing a wrong number. This is not a forum, and delimitation commission cannot do anything. The forum is the government of India. If the BJP is so concerned about them, they should have got the provision inserted in the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of 2019. They have made one question, constitutional roadblock is there. Why we are keeping 24 seats reserved, rather not reserved, but keep vacant for the people of that area which is under the illegal occupation of Pakistan. It is in consonance with the constitutional position that POK is part of India. So we cannot give up that claim, even if we know we will not be able to get it back. Now, coming to the demand of the DPs, these seats may not be unfreezed, but the representation to them can be given, can be considered by way of nomination. My next article is coming on this aspect, that they have given a reservation by way of nomination of 2 seats to women if there is not sufficient number of women elected into the assembly. This is in section 15 of the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act. Similar provision can be made for the nomination of 2-3 seats, whether unfreezing 3 seats from the 24 or keeping over and above 90 seats. So this can be done. But I am afraid after the motion is there already, the delimitation commission is already doing the job, whether it is legally possible to amend the law and give this provision. Even though delimitation commission has nothing to do with the part of the nomination, which is to be made by the government of the UT when they come to power. In fact, the second part is of Lieutenant General Mehta. I'm sure, I don't know, I'm sure about the name. Lieutenant General mentioned about the giving representation to Kashmiri Pandits. Well, Kashmiri Pandit, it's a very thoughtful process had taken place after their migration. You know, if all Pandits are taken into Jammu, they will take away our jobs, our share of jobs, share of everything. So they have to be kept there in Kashmir, because we have not given up Kashmir. Unlike POK, Kashmir has not been given up. So in the elections, the migrant votes are counted in those constituencies. Now coming to the giving representation, I have a very interesting data to share with you. The problem with Kashmiri friends are they can affect the results of many constituencies, especially constituency of Habba Kadal. In Habba Kadal, the Kashmiri migrant voters are 16,710. And you know, the whole process is that, so for the convenience of migrants, the election commission sets up special booths where they are located, largely located. One in Jammu, another in Udhampur, and third in Delhi. According to their rules, they have to apply for registration. Against 16,710 electors, only 6,000 have applied, and against 6,000, 2,000 have cast vote. If the migrant have cast the votes, you know, the Haba Kadal candidate, NC candidate won. She won by, I think, 4,000. She polled 4,955 votes, whereas migrant has 16,000 votes. If they were serious, the Haba Kadal seat could have gone to the migrant, to a Kashmiri Pandit, Motilal Kaul. But they did not. So it is a real politics, I will call, for all groups to call for it. If they are serious, they could get it. And secondly, in our constitution, there is no provision for reservation for any other class, except scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. There is only one exception. Exception is in Sikkim legislature, in Sikkim assembly, where monks and nuns of monasteries have been given one seat. They have given a special consideration because it joined much later in the Union in 1975. It became a part of Union of India. And it was challenged. It was challenged by someone that you cannot have a separate electorate for any particular community. You know, I don't know how many of you are aware of the Pune Pact. The Pune Pact between Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar. Ambedkar toyed the same idea, so that you reserve seats and only that particular scheduled caste will cast vote. So Mahatma Gandhi did not agree. And then ultimately a Pune Pact was undertaken, and then seats were reserved where everyone would vote for reserved seats, scheduled caste and non-scheduled caste. But in Sikkim case, it has been done, and Supreme Court in 1993 had upheld this decision because it is protected in Article 371F. So the constitutional protection to Sikkim is there. And similar protection can be given to the DPs of POK. Jammu should get, Jammu people can get certain things by amending Article 371 and getting the provision of 370 provision J. The third part is that comparing the constituencies of Jammu and Kashmir, basically unit is one, that is Jammu and Kashmir unit, UT. So seats are 90. Technically, there should not be division-wise segments. But unfortunately, it is already in existence. It is already in terms of the boundaries of each administrative units. So ultimately, we have to carry forward this discrimination. So if the government of India had thought of it to empower Jammu, if they have given this right of nomination of DPs, that two or three or more people would have come to the Jammu region with voting rights. Out of the 7, Jammu may get 4, Jammu will get 5. That's a different issue, how much they will get. Because Mr. Khajuria has compared how small constituencies of Gurez and Karna, leave aside Ladakh, are existing with 17,000 vote or 32,000 vote. Similar pockets can be carved out in Jammu region. And to quote Hasib Drabu throwing a sixer on me, that if you are talking about the area, then most of the seats, new seats will come in the Muslim belt of Doda and Pir Panjal range. He is not aware that Jammu Kashmir is a highly secular area. Unlike Kashmir, where 96% belong to one particular community, here we have 36% Muslims living in Jammu. And there was no divide. The Pakistan and terrorists could not make a divide in Jammu, even the peak of the militancy. We have lived and we continue to live harmoniously in Jammu, and we will call the bluff of Kashmir and Kashmir-centric people by dividing us on the religious line or Hindu or Muslim lines. Friends, another thing that I think the Delimitation Commission must go for rationalization of the electorates. Even though electorate is not a basis of carving out consciences. The Act does not say electorate. And somebody said about the census having fudged. I don't know how many of us know, there's an inbuilt system. The thumb rule for the Election Commission is that 68% of the population is considered to be above 18 years, more than 18 years. So it means in any constituency where it is more than 68%, it means there is a problem. And there is a tool within the Election Commission. So they go for the house-to-house enumeration. If they are less, they are asked to get themselves registered, be a voter. If they are more, then this process of elimination of votes is there. It is very difficult to say, even though my sentiments are with Jammu. As Jammuwala, as a Jammuite, I also believe, because the difference has increased from 2.54 lakh in 51 to 15 lakhs in 2011. But as somebody said, who does the election? Who does the enumerations? The teachers, the local staff, the ministerial staff of local bodies, government. So it has to be a local man. People from Jammu will not go to enumerate the thing. So if you keep doubting everything, it is a difficult thing. But having said that Mr. Khajuria has rightly said, there is a suspicion of a huge gap of 15 lakh in 2011 census that needs to be explained by someone, and more so by the census department, not by anybody else. I don't have much to say more because things have been already said, and there's no point in repeating those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You've given us a very balanced view, and you've given the insight into the administration, the working of the spaces, and certain very apt examples you put forward with lots of research and a very, very good analysis, sir. Thank you so much, sir. May I now request General Govardhan Singh Jamwal, sir, kindly your comments, please.
Thank you very much again. I think it was required, whatever things are coming today, and Jammu is, I think, lying naked today. We know where we stand. We all know our weaknesses. And I also felt the same what General Mehta felt all my life, that Kashmir is there because of us, because of the Dogras. And we will live together. Of course, the limitation, I have nothing much to say. As you all say, it will take place because it is bound by rules and regulations. But certain things have come up today which we must consider. After all, what is a delimitation for? What are elections for? It is for your life, for living. And that's what is not happening. Jammu, what I have seen, 37 years of my retirement, totally discriminated. And if we have to continue the same way, I don't find Jammu will get anything in future, whether it's a jobs, whether it's a tourism. I can quote everything from my personal experience, how the Kashmiris have ruined our economy, our industry, our tourism, jobs, everything. I can convince anybody, put me in front of any commission. I did speak to these, in fact, for 10 years I had been telling to Vora, when he was interlocutor, 10 years I educated him. And when he became governor, he forgot. So why? Because he had probably served Mufti or somebody else, so we got nothing. So my worry is how Jammu will get justice. I've been thinking again and again. In fact, when the bifurcation came, I thought if the trifurcation had come, we all three would have settled beautifully. I was also convinced, but till as you said very rightly, General Mehta said, till this Gupkar came, I was thinking still differently. But after Gupkar, I think it is now, taking Pfizer, knowing it that it is positive. So now, to my mind, we have to work as much as you can to improve things and hope Kashmiris understand that 72 years, what they have done, now it will not work. But will they? Because we will never get together. Out of question, Jammu will never get together. Jammu will only get together like Ladakhis. If you have a separate unit, then we will get together. And then Jammu will be one of the most prosperous states. I can prove it to you economically. Everything is with us. Now the new apples have come. I tell you, if we produce these apples from Lakhanpur to Udaipur and Rajouri, we'll have a 10,000 crores economy based on fruit itself. So there are many other things. So what I will say that the delimitation will take place, whatever happens, unless politically we work out. You can give a chance to yourself, but if that doesn't work, then the only answer would be to have a separate Jammu, then it will work. Jammu, Dogras, Muslims, everything, they will work together. I am 100% sure. We had worked even before also. It is the Kashmir K factor which took away everything. And so long the K is there with Jammu, Jammu will be nowhere. That's what my feeling is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You've given your views. You articulated them very, very correctly, very nicely. And I'm sure all the youth is listening. They have really taken something out of it. Now, before we go any further, gentlemen, we have a special guest who is not from Jammu and Kashmir, who's been there in a couple of webinars earlier also. And today I requested him not to leave without speaking. Well, he's a gentleman called Mr. Aditya Dopatkar from Bombay. So, he's heard us about 3-4 times. Mr. Aditya, could you please come and give us your opinion of what you think of what we are talking? Are we talking sense? Are we talking one-sided? Are we biased?
Yes. So thank you for...
Whatever is your view on the subject, please be very, very candid and very, very open about it. So over to you, Aditya. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I only wish that there were more such occasions whereby Marathi people would be able to help the people of Jammu, because both Marathas and Jammuites are staunch and superb warriors who have done a lot for the protection of the nation. I feel since I do not...
Sure, Aditya, may I request you to please switch on your video, please? So you can see.
My video is spoiled, sir. I won't be able to give it for today. Once it's repaired, the next webinar, I should have it ready. Kindly excuse me for this time. Yes, yes. So the thing is, sir, since I do not belong to Jammu proper and I know about what is happening there, I can help Jammu from outside. So I have already thought of a plan and I lay it out before all of you. What is happening in Jammu needs to be understood from classical times to the delimitation scenario, and a series of small chats have to be prepared on social media, which should be translated into the languages, regional languages spoken by other parts of the country, and has specifically been other than Hindi. Once this happens, the villages in different parts of the country will know what is happening over there, because for most people of the rest of India, Jammu is no more than a district within Kashmir Valley. They do not know about the geography of Jammu. And that is why there is no counter pressure from other nationalists who are simply lacking in information. I must confess candidly that it was up to a few months ago that I did not know that all these different districts of Jammu division were actually part of Jammu division and not part of Kashmir. People do not know that Kishtwar is so varied and so different, yet so large in size. So with this lack of information, we face a situation where a Mr. Drabu from the Gupkar side could have his say by getting to write a column in a newspaper which belongs to another state of the country, and his view would be drummed through the leftist mainstream media onto the people. But the view of the Jammuite will never come out, because the people who are from Jammu would be denied that opportunity by the mainstream media. So the only way out is that the rest of the country should know what is happening, so that a counter collateral pressure can build up from true facts and information. So that is what, if you provide me with these chats, I will try my best to get these translated into other regional languages and will spread the word around, so it will reach the farmer of the country. It will reach the rural person of the country in his mother tongue. Let it be Gujarati, Odia, my own Marathi, or Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Assamese. I have got people who can do these translations. I'm already in touch with people for Telugu and others, and things can get arranged. But they do not know what is happening over there. So Jammu doesn't have any friend in the rest of India. That situation should end forever. Jammu should not go into isolation. In fact, what is happening in Jammu, if you cast an overview about what's happening in the country, all the peripheral provinces, be it Kerala, Tamil Nadu, be it Jammu, be it Northeast, be it West Bengal, the rest of the country does not know what is happening over there. They are all engrossed in their own situation. They send their own local chats amongst each other. And there are local intellectuals who are worried. There are local activists. Jammu is, in fact, not in as bad a situation as West Bengalis. But we need to let the rest of the country know, and it is not happening, sadly, even because of the RSS or BJP. We ourselves have to do it. I don't belong to any organization. I support all nationalists. So I can help from my side as an individual. I can get translations done in Marathi and let them reach each and every person, because nobody knows about what your problem is. Don't let this situation stay forever. The rest of the country should know. It will be your mistake, strategic mistake, to think that you can fight alone over there. You need support from the rest of the country. Thank you, sir.
Very rightly said, Mr. Aditya Daubadkar. Of course, we will get in touch with you. And